You think it's just a moment, but what you do in the dark creates consequences in the invisible world. There are things your body experiences and your soul pays for, gestures you trivialize, but which unleash a storm around you without you knowing it. When you sleep with someone, you think it's between the two of you. But in reality, what you do attracts energies, forges bonds, and opens doors that only God can close. Why have you never slept the same since that night? Why this heaviness, this discomfort, this feeling of loss? What if it wasn't just guilt, but a real upheaval in your spiritual world? What you're about to hear now could change the way you see love, desire, and especially your connection with Allah. Hang in there. Because once you know what's really going on, you'll never look at your choices the same way again. 101. The invisible connection. You can't see there are things you think are over, simply because you don't talk about them anymore. You told yourself it was over, that it was just another mistake, that it would eventually fade into routine, into noise, into new distractions. But the invisible forgets nothing. When two bodies come together in what is forbidden, what the eye sees is only a fraction of what's really happening. It's not just two physical presences touching. It's two inner worlds opening up to each other. Two systems of intentions, pain, trauma, wounds, that blend together without protection, without limits. You think you abandoned yourself just one night, but in truth, you allowed a foreign energy to take root within you. And that's when the suffering begins. Not always immediately. Sometimes it's weeks later. An emptiness you can't explain, a sadness that clings to your skin, a feeling of being scattered, as if your heart was no longer entirely your own. You get up, you pray, you smile. But deep down, something has come loose. A part of you floats elsewhere, in a memory you tried to bury. But it wasn't just a memory. It was a spiritual connection. You let it enter your sacred space, the one that was meant to belong only to the one Allah would have rightfully written for you. And this connection, even silent, even forgotten, remains attached to your soul like an invisible chain. You can move, block his number, change your look, change your circle, invent a new version of yourself. But until you have sincerely cleansed this bond, until you have confronted your heart with what it has accepted without the filter of the divine, you will remain haunted by this bond, because it doesn't live in the visible. It lives in the subtle world, where Allah reads what you yourself no longer want to see. That's why you feel tired for no reason. That's why certain faces come back to you without you calling them. That's why your heart doesn't heal, even if you have turned the page with your hands. Because this kind of bond cannot be broken by forgetting. It can only be broken by returning to the one who sees the invisible. Through an inner collapse, through a word whispered to Allah on a night when everyone else is asleep except Him. Through that prayer you've never prayed, out of shame or fear, but which alone can rewrite your story. And until it's done, that connection, even silent, continues to whisper to your soul. 2. The presence of invisible beings. It's night, not a sound in the room. The world has gone dark. You think it's silence. You think it's the end of a story. But it's only the beginning, in another dimension. The curtains are drawn, the lights are out. But in the invisible world, nothing is ever truly hidden. There are actions that attract more than regrets. There are gestures that create openings. When two beings come together in a space that Allah has not sanctified, it's not just two bodies that unite. It's a crack that opens in the invisible fabric of their spiritual protection. At that precise moment, somewhere between two breaths, invisible gazes turn towards them. Beings made of another creation. Some curious, others disturbed, some drawn to the darkness of the moment. You don't see them, but they see you. They're not asleep. They're watching. They're approaching. And what you think is private becomes, in the parallel universe, a spectacle of disorder. Where modesty fades, chaos manifests. And chaos always calls for witnesses. But these witnesses are not of this world. They come with their own rules, their own intentions. Some call them energies. Others speak of jinns, presences, chains. The words don't matter. The sensation, however, is very real. You think you'll fall asleep as before, but you wake up different. Tired, even though you've slept 8 hours. Restless, even though you haven't drunk anything. Empty, even though you were in company. And above all, strangely distant from Allah, without understanding why. Your heart seems veiled. Your tongue freezes in dhikr. Your concentration in prayer disappears. And you don't know where this weight comes from. But your soul does. It felt the intrusion. Because that night, you weren't alone. Because what you opened wasn't just a door between you and the other. You opened a breach in your inner world. And you never control what enters when you open without divine permission. There are consequences that don't scream. They settle in quietly. They steal your light silently. They extinguish your intuition. They blur your faith. And you think you've simply moved away when you've been subtly disconnected. This isn't just a lapse. It's a wound in your spiritual realm. A rift that only sincere repentance can mend. But as long as this door remains ajar, the visitors won't leave. And the night will continue to be populated, even when you think you're alone. 3. When your soul screams without you hearing it, there's a scream inside you, but it makes no sound. You walk, you smile, you pretend to be fine. But your soul screams in a silence that no one hears. It's a strange, elusive pain. It's not a wound you can see. It's not a grief you can explain. It's deeper, older, as if you have lost something precious, but you don't even know what anymore. And you try to move on. You surround yourself. You laugh. You seek new sensations, new faces, new distractions. But when you lay your head on the pillow, the emptiness returns. That same emptiness. Motionless, inexplicable, incurable. There are people who feel dirty without having touched the earth. People who feel broken even though they've never been struck. Because they offered fragments of their souls at times when their hearts weren't ready. Because they gave their intimacy where Allah had not placed His light. Your soul, however, never consented to this relationship. Your body may give in, your mind may rationalize, but your soul, it doesn't cheat. It cries when you do what distances it from the one who created it. And you don't understand why you feel so bad. Why even after love do you feel this nausea? Why even after the euphoria do you fall back into this fatigue? Why your heart beats but no longer lives? It's because deep down, you've betrayed yourself. You lied to yourself. You said, "I'm fine," while your inner self was crumbling. You said, "It's nothing," while you were leaving an indelible mark on your soul. You can change your clothes, change people, change cities. But this weight you carry isn't physical. It's spiritual. And this kind of burden doesn't lift with time. It doesn't fade with forgetting. It only lightens when you accept the truth. It's not pleasure you need, it's peace. And peace, it only comes from one place, not in the arms of another, but in returning to the divine, in authenticity, in rediscovered modesty. The moment you stop running away and finally face your soul. Because as long as you ignore its cries, you will continue to survive instead of living. You will be alive on the outside, but absent on the inside. 4. Each intimate act leaves a mark on your destiny. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a scroll, a long roll of light, inscribed with your story, your prayers, your choices, your silences, your sacrifices. Each line, each stroke, tells of your connection with heaven. But sometimes, without warning, a drop falls. Black, thick, a stain of ink on the sacred white of your journey. It wasn't written. It didn't come from him. It was born from a moment when you gave in. When you gave your body, without understanding its weight. When you unite outside the sacred framework, it's not just an act. It's a spiritual interruption, an alteration in the fabric of your destiny. As if, for a moment, you had changed the track, left the path that the Most High had traced for you. And sometimes, this simple deviation changes everything. You think it was just a moment, a passing error, but in reality, it's a ripple. Like a stone thrown into still water, the circles spread long after the gesture. You move forward in life, but something is wrong. Relationships broken for no reason. Confused, unstable feelings. An inability to feel clean, even in sincere love. It's not a punishment. It's a call to purification. An invitation to return to the original path. Allah does not cancel your destiny, but He calls you, come back, put things in order, repair what has been disturbed. Every illicit, intimate act is like a stain left to spread on a precious garment. And as long as you don't clean it, it affects everything else. Your perception of love, your self-esteem, your ability to recognize the one who is truly meant for you. You wonder why you can't find peace in your relationships. Why your heart yearns but no longer clings. Why projects fail. Why, even when everything seems fine, the baraka doesn't descend. It's not that you're cursed. It's that the ground is still troubled. And divine love, pure and solid, does not grow on soil where spiritual disorder reigns. It waits. It observes. It is patient until you make your soul a sanctuary once again. You weren't rejected. You were slowed down so that you could realign your trajectory, so that you could pick up your pen again and rewrite your story with blessed ink, not with dirty memories, but with sacred choices. 5. But we love each other. The greatest modern illusion. But we love each other. So it's not the same, is it? Do you really want an answer? No. It's not the same. It's worse. Because love, when it serves to justify what God forbids, becomes a dangerous illusion. It becomes a cover for desire, a noble excuse for choices that are not. A sweet lie called sincerity, but which in reality is emotional disobedience. You say, we don't harm anyone. But who told you that evil had to be visible to exist? The most destructive evil is the one that slows down your soul without you realizing it. The one who makes you believe you're moving forward. When you're going around in circles, around a fire that always ends up burning, you say, there's something strong between us. But if it's so strong, why live it in the dark? Why be ashamed before the angels? Why tremble when marriage is discussed? Why hope no one finds out what you're doing? Since when does love hide? Since when is love negotiated with stolen dates and missed prayers? Do you want love? Real love? Then know this. Love doesn't flee the light. Love aligns itself with the sacred. Love wants to exist before Allah, not sheltered from Him. What you're experiencing isn't love. It's an attachment. Deep, perhaps. Intense, certainly. But dangerous for your soul. Because anything that distances you from your Creator, even if it gives you butterflies in your stomach, will never bring you the peace you seek. Attachment without a divine framework becomes emotional dependence. You suffer when he or she walks away. You collapse when you don't receive a message. You live at the rhythm of a human. When you should be breathing at the rhythm of the reminder, you say, "We were made for each other." But who told you that what was made for you will push you to disobey the one who created you? And you know what hurts most about all this? You feel deep down that it's not right, that it's not stable, that it's not healthy, but you want to believe it. Because the alternatives, cut, repair, wait, are frightening. Do you want to test your love? Place it before God. If it trembles, if it flees, if it pushes you to hide it, then it's not love. It's a temptation disguised as a blessing. What you just heard isn't here to judge you, it's here to wake you up. You are worth more than stolen moments. Your soul deserves better than toxic bonds. And your destiny awaits you, purified, aligned, and blessed. But for that, you must choose. Continue living in oblivion, or return to the light. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more reminders that speak to your heart, not just your head. And above all, don't leave without doing one thing. Talk to Allah, here, now, as if your deliverance depended on it. Because sometimes it really does.